only show that's 3 dimensions away from Dawn of the Planet of the Apes being called Dawn of the Apes. I'm your host 3D Jake, and today we're looking at Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, released in 2014. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes is a sequel to Rise of the Planet of the Apes, this time directed by Matt Reeves, who directed Cloverfield before then, and would later go on to direct The Batman, and would basically be the king of ape movies, because by establishing himself as the Christopher Nolan of ape movies. Literally, this movie put him on the map. Like, he already, before this movie, had made like Let Me In and Cloverfield, and he still was up and coming. Like, but this movie solidified him. Sorry, as a director. Like, people knew who he was. Like, oh my God, did you see Dawn of the Planet of the Apes? He's so good. And it's written once again by Rick Joffrey and Amanda Silver, and also with co-writers Matt Reeves and Mark Bumbach. And the movie stars Andy Serkis once again. This time around, joined by Jason Clarke, Kerry Russell, Cody V. McSmith, and on top of that, Toby Kebbell and Gary Oldman. The movie is essentially a sequel to Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but this one takes place years later. And this time around, Caesar, once again played by Andy Serkis, is trying to establish, like, has an ape colony and figures the humans all died out by the virus, because in the opening credits, it shows that the virus went and spread and killed everybody, and the whole world is basically dead of humans, and basically, like, Caesar is, the apes are just living their world. They're living, they're hunting, they're killing for fish, and they're eating, they're living in their colony until they see humans. And then the humans, of course, basically, it turns out they were all, like, the ones who weren't affected by the virus survived, and they're trying to recolonize and repopulate the earth again. But unfortunately, they got to turn power back on to do it. But unfortunately, Caesar has a conflict with them because he knows they're humans, and humans are dangerous. And so Caesar, who sees there are good people, he tries to help them out. But then the other one, ape, Kobo, played by Toby Kebbell basically sees them as, okay, they tortured me, they're evil, we should kill them all. And just, get rid of them. And then, of course, it becomes a big conflict between the humans and the apes. I will say Toby Kebbell is so good in this movie, and Andy Serkis really, honestly, it's a crime Andy Serkis did not get nominated for an Oscar for this film, because he's so good in this movie. Even though he's playing a motion capture character, he's still so good. He actually makes you believe he is this character. Like, he actually is Caesar. And the movie's shot so well. Like, the acting in this movie and the cinematography, like, the direction, everything in this movie. And I remember when I heard that they were making a new Planet of the Apes sequel, because I always thought Rise of the Apes, like, oh, okay, that explains it. So, yeah, there's no more. But then they're like, no, there's a sequel happening. And I'm like, oh, okay. And because I really enjoyed Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And they're like, oh, it's going to, this time, Rupert Wyatt's not directing it. And I'm like, what? And James Franco's not starring it. I'm like, this is going to suck. Because, I'm like, that movie was so good. And I'm like, they even, like, really reshot the ending so they could keep Franco around, like, for the sequel. But then, when Matt Reeves came on to direct it, he's like, we're going to make it a sequel that's going to be more in the distant future. Which, at first I was really against. I'm like, no, like, I like these characters. Let's, like, see, like, them die out in the movie. Let's not just sit there and... But then, of course, Matt Reeves, though, when I first saw the first teaser, I remember I literally went to a school event, and I come home from the school event, and I saw the first teaser, and it was Jason Clarke, and you see it's raining, and he's literally, you hear Gary Oldman, like, one shot of Gary Oldman, and you see him talking about the virus, saying, we've been fighting this virus for 4 years, for so many years, we've been fighting this virus, and he says, it's been killing us, and I want you to know what we're up against, just, like, really, really hyping you up, and you see Jason Clarke just do not enter signs, and then you see him saying, I need to speak to Caesar. And then you just keep hearing more Gary Oldman's narration. And then you just see, like, warp Caesar in the trees, war paint. Like, then he looks older. And you just see all these behind him. And he just does his hand like this. And then all of a sudden, it says Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. And I'm like, okay, you have my curiosity now, Matt Reeves. Like, I am curious. And then, like, I thought that was so... I've watched that teaser so many times because I'm like, okay, Gary Oldman's playing a human, and he's like almost like the human villain of the story. And I'm like, okay, and Andy Serkis is the hero of the story. And I'm like, okay, I was really intrigued. And then, of course, because I really was not a Jason Clarke fan. I wasn't. Like, it wasn't until this movie that really established Jason Clarke to me as a good character actor. I never really cared for him. Like, I thought he was good in White House Down, But I really like this movie. Really established him to me. Established him as a great actor. I'm like, he's so good in this movie because like I really enjoyed his acting. He's like, because you believe he's a father who's trying to like, look, I'm trying to help my son. You know, he's in a relationship with this other woman who lost her family, and on top of it, he's just trying to help the human race. He's like, look, we just want to turn the power back on so I can help my people. He's like, I don't want to affect you, Caesar. And you can see that there's these two conflicts of people because it's basically like, look, you know, like it's like almost like Lord of the Flies in a way with apes, in a way where they're trying to like, you know, you have one ape that's like willing to help them out. And you have a couple of apes that are like, hey, we'll help them if you tell us to. And then you have one human that's like, look, we need help. And then you have other humans that are like, look, these people, the apes, are what killed us. They're gonna kill us all. And then you have like Gary Oldman's character who believes like they're just animals. Let's just kill them and we'll get it over with. You know, and Gary Oldman just wants to get the power back and he wants to help people. And then of course, you know, like his motivation is we need to basically rebuild. We need to rebuild and get rid of the apes. That is the problem. And you know, and I think that really what makes it perfect. Like there are scenes in this movie that are so well shot. Like you know, like there's subtle moments. Like the humans, I like how the story progresses. Like it starts out with Caesar and it progresses into the human story. Like you do not see the first human you see is literally the bad guy played by Kurtz. That's the thing. Is he is a character who basically, you know, or Kurt Cobain. And he literally comes in and he basically pulls a gun on the apes, and then that's when you see the humans, and that's when their first introduction is okay, they're bad, but then you see the whole story unfold as a character where you're like, oh my god, like they're like they're trying to, they're literally they don't want to conflict, they don't want to come up here and destroy the apes or nothing. They're just like, we just want to come turn the power on. That's all we want. You let us turn the power on, you know, like that's all we want. You know, like and he tries to explain to people like they're apes, they're not gonna listen to you. And I think that's what makes it so great is because this is a story of like what could have happened. And I like how there was even shots that Matt Reeves directs in this movie where literally the war, like once Caesar gets shot and everything, like I like how Kobo turns on Caesar and everything. I thought that was a really well done shot. And I like how Matt Reeves like shoots the scene, the battle sequences at night, and you just see the gunshots just come from like, and it's really shot Cloverfield style, where like you just see the gunshots, like it's really dark lit, and you just see the gunshot, the machine guns go off and everything, and I thought that was really great how like you see the apes getting slaughtered because it's a PG-13 movie. You can't have humans get killed. You know, only a few humans get killed in this movie, and it's really mostly off screen. And so, but I like every time, like I like how one ape's just picking up the dead for like a battlefield where it's like, okay, this one's dead, and then like Caesar's son saying, it's like this is horrible, you know, it's like, you know, just seeing like all the apes are like this is horrible. And then of course like Kobo, which is like war all the way, and he jumps on there, and you know, and he basically takes the machine gun. It's one shot too. It just takes one shot where it just sits there, and all of a sudden you just literally watch a tracking shot of just Kobo on the machine gun. And it never cuts away until he gets it, crashes into there, and I'm like, that's such a good Matt Reeves shot. I thought that was so brilliant, well done. I'm like, Matt Reeves shows that, you know, he can direct really well done, and I'm like, that's really cool. And you know, the whole fight sequence with the apes and the whole shot of Kobo, you know, with like on top of the American flag, that was pretty cool too. And I like how he imprisons all Caesar's followers, and like I like how they go back to the house and see James Franco cameo. That was really cool too. And I like the big battle at the end with Caesar and Kobo. I do think that, you know, the movie does drag a little bit, like there are certain scenes, but I understand why it's there. It's there to set up what's happening. I do kind of wish that the movie would have cut down a little bit where they could get to the humans faster. I do feel like the movie kind of takes a long time to build up to the humans, but I do like it though. And I also like that Gary Oldman literally escapes in like the humans, and like literally they're underground, and like they're literally trying to. He's like Caesar's fighting Kobo up there because Kobo built this like Caesar. The humans killed Caesar, and Caesar's still alive, and how Caesar's like tells him that James Franco was a good man, like, you know, Jason Clarke. And I really like that, you know, and he's like, and I like how when Malcolm's trying to give Caesar time, because they're going to blow it up, like, we called the Navy, they're on their way, and everything, and they're like, you know, he takes a gun, he's like, but Gary Oldman's like, they're animals, you know, and he goes like, I like how, the one F-bomb is dropped by Gary Oldman, I love the line where he's like, are you out of your fucking mind? Like, you know, he's like, you know, and literally, cause he's like, just literally, he literally holds the gun up to Gary Oldman and the guy from Wedding Crashers and this other guy who looks mysteriously like the guy from, like, he's dressed like the guy from Battle of the Planet of the Apes. And so you're just like, you know, which is, I guess, a homage, the way his outfit is a homage to that. And I think that's really cool and well done. and like how Gary Oldman grabs a detonator and he goes, "I'm trying to save the hero," and then he's like killing all three of them except for Jason Clarke, which I thought that was dumb. Like Jason Clarke would have died in there; he would not have just gotten away. But they want him to get away and the bad guy to die. And Gary Oldman does play a good guy. Like there is some great stuff in Gary Oldman's performance where he wants to save his human race, but any means necessary is how he does it. Like I like the scene where like the tablet comes on, he looks at a picture of his. Those are his actual kids in the movie. And I'm like, I thought that was so well done. And you see him crying. I felt real. Like that's a real emotional moment that I thought was well done. And I thought that works so well in the story. And I thought everybody's performance and everything. And I like how at the end it shows that Kobo possibly may or didn't die. And I like that aspect of it. And I like how, he says, "Help me, Kobo, not ape." And and I thought that was great. And I like the whole the big drama, the big action stuff takes place more at the end. So if you're expecting a whole lot of action, mostly it's a story build up to where the action's all in the second, third act of the movie, and it's it really is a build up story, and I really enjoyed this movie, and I highly recommend if you haven't seen it. If I had to give this movie a grade, I would give it an A+. Thank you so much.
Already begun.